All right, well, what I'd like to start with is talking about some options for the right hand. And initially, I'd like to start with kind of a medium bluesy, Ray Brown dig-in kind of approach to walking on the blues. So you can notice what I'm doing the majority of the time there is I'm just plucking with my index finger. And I'm bringing my index finger down toward the bottom of the fingerboard. And what that does is that adds a nice high harmonic into the sound that really helps the sound cut so you can hear the sound. There's a lot of front end attack on the sound, so a drummer or other members of the band could really hear what you're doing. You'll notice if I go higher up the fingerboard, the sound becomes mellower, maybe darker, but doesn't have the same, again, just kind of attack that's very discernible for the other musicians to hear. It's a perfectly usable sound on a ballad solo or something, but probably not a sound you'd want for this more digging in, bluesy kind of thing. And again, this was basically how Ray Brown would play when he was playing those kind of tempos. Also, you can use a little bit of arm weight. I'm rather raising my forearm just a little bit and then dropping the weight into the string. But it's not a big muscle the string kind of thing. It's just trying to get to know how to use your arm weight to achieve that goal. You often see younger players using just a ton of right arm in order to get the sound, in order to get a louder sound perhaps, but at some point you're probably going to wear out and not be able to do that. So you want to minimize the sound a little bit, minimize the motion a little bit, but still dig in, have a lot of attack. I've got 30 years of callus on this index finger here. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Another thing that's important is what we could call drops. So I'll back up just a second. First of all, you want to make sure that you can get a good, consistent quarter note just on open strings like that, and then you could apply that to some walking bass lines, but still quarter notes only. So again, you're trying to get all the strings to speak, the thicker string, the thinner string, and the two in between, exactly on the beat, exactly where you want them to be. Now, at some point, of course, you're going to listen and transcribe jazz bass lines, and you're going to hear guys doing other cool, fancy stuff. And one of the things, after you feel like you're totally down with the consistent quarter note, is what we call a drop. So what I'm doing is I'm just raking my index finger down from the G string, and again, swing music, triplet bass, da 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 da. I'm just off that third triplet. I'm just doing a little drop down, and that could either be like an open string where you're really using the sound as the normal sound. So. But notice I'm muting, by the time I get to the string I'm muting this so I don't get, I don't get both strings ringing together. I'm doing something like that. You can also just totally deaden the upper string. That sounds fine, and sometimes it even sounds cooler. It's kind of like a tap dance, just a little pickup like a drummer might do with brushes. So if I threw a few of those into my line, that I'm making sure that the ornament or the embellishment, whatever you want to call it, the pickup doesn't in any way take away from that quarter note drive or quarter note feel. You could do the last two of a triplet. So there I'm doing the last two of a triplet, down to landing on my A string on the beat. Again, I'm either muting these strings by the time I arrive at the A string, or I might just deaden them right away. Just depends what I'm going for. And again, you'll hear people on records, CDs doing it both ways. Anything is fine, you just want to have control over what you're doing. So if I did some of that, there I did something a little different, but that's okay, you get the idea. I could also do a full triplet drop. So there you see I'm just raking my finger the top 3 strings. Once again, I could deaden them all. Something like that. Okay, so that's something you could add to that more medium tempo kind of, you know, Ray Brown digging in kind of swing thing. Now, at some point, as things get faster, you have to lighten up more in the right hand. And you know, it's good to stay down to that part of the fingerboard as long as you can, but at some point, you know, I move up a little because there's less resistance. So as you can see, I've moved a little from the end of the fingerboard. I'm still using the side of my index finger, but I'm not really using any arm motion at all. You might have even noticed once or twice I used my middle finger. So it's a good idea to be able to play, say, some scales with repeated articulations. That was index finger only. Try it with middle finger only. And then at some point, you can try alternating the 2 fingers. Because when it gets to extremely fast tempos, I personally need to do that. There's some bass players I've seen that can play incredibly fast with 1 finger, and I'm always working to try and get that looser and faster. But the fact of the matter is, some really blazing tempos, I need to go to a 2-finger technique. Again, a way to start practicing that is using scales. And notice what your habit pattern is. Notice if you have a habit of starting on middle finger or starting on index finger. If you don't have a habit pattern, great. If you haven't developed one yet, do it both ways. If you do have a habit pattern, try it sometimes the other way. So now I'm going to start on index finger. Just because you'll find yourself in certain situations where if you always start on the same finger, a particular string crossing could cause you problems. I don't have a totally thought out example at this point about that right now, but I know in the past, sometimes when I was working on bebop heads and stuff like that on the bass, I'd run into a passage where I'd go, whoa, why is this so hard? And I'd think about my left hand, I think I've got a good fingering, blah, 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 why is this hard for me? And I finally realized that it was because the way my right hand was programmed to start, it just didn't fit the string crossing well. Some people do use 3 fingers in their Pitts approach. That's out there. I can't really speak to that. I haven't done much more with that than what you've seen right here. So that you would want to look elsewhere for guidance on that.